Hello everyone, welcome to the course on Universal Human Values. In today's class, we'll be discussing about understanding value education, self-exploration as the process for value education. So in understanding this value education, some of the basic guidelines for value educations are like, now that we have identified the need for value education, let us also visualize certain effective and widely acceptable guidelines which will enable the introduction of value education in the present system. So, guidelines to decide on what would qualify as an appropriate input in value education. Universal. Whatever we study as value education has to be universally applicable to all human beings and be true at all times and all places. In addition, it need not restrict itself to a certain sector, creed, gender, or nationality, etc. So it has to deal with universal human values. The second point is rational. It has to be amenable to reasoning and not based on dogmas or blind beliefs. It cannot be a set of like do's and don'ts. The third point is natural and verifiable. Like if I say we want to study something that is natural to us, being natural means it is acceptable in a natural manner to all human beings when we live on the basis of such values that are natural to us. It leads to fulfillment, leads to our happiness, and also is conducive to other people we interact with as well as with nature. We also would like to verify these values ourselves. That is, we don't want to assume something just because it is being stated here or written in a book. Rather, each one of us will want to verify these to find out whether they are true for us. This has to be done by both checking for validity within ourselves as being naturally acceptable as well as something which can be implemented in our living and observe its outcome to be fulfilling. The next is all encompassing. Value education is not merely an academic exercise, it is aimed at transforming our consciousness and living. Hence, it has to permeate into all dimensions of our living, namely thought, behavior, work, and understanding or realization, as well as all levels, namely individual, family, society, and nature. The next point is leading to harmony. Finally, value education has to enable us to be in harmony within and in harmony with others. Hence, we live on the basis of these values. We start understanding that it will lead to harmony in us and harmony in our interactions with other humans and the rest of nature. So, coming to the content of value education, value of any unit in this existence is its participation in the larger order of which it is a part. For example, value of a pen is that it can write. Here, writing is the participation of the pen in the bigger order, in which pen is that uh, pen, paper, human being, all are present. So, value of an eye is that it can be used for seeing. Value of a vegetable plant is that it gives nutrition to animals and humans. Then, what is the value of a human being? So, this question implies what is the participation of a human being in the bigger order? That bigger order includes human beings, plants, air, water, soil, animals, birds, etc. The value of a human being is the participation of human being in this order. Hence, to understand human values, we need to study the human reality along with all that is there in the existence, constituting the larger order and the role of human being in the relationship with each and every unit in the existence. So, the scope of study, as mentioned, any course on value education must include all dimensions: thought, behavior, work, and realization, all levels of human living, like individual, family, society, nature, existence of human living. So, coming to the process of value education, the process of value education has to be ascertained before we proceed, like uh, ourselves with the process of value education which we are going to adopt. So, in this course, various aspects of reality facilitating the understanding of human values will be presented as proposals. So, you need to verify these proposals for yourself and examine your living in this light. So, we can see how we can verify these proposals. Like, we will verify these proposals through self exploration. We shall investigate into these proposals and try to verify within us in our own right. So, this self exploration will be done on the basis of whether the proposals are acceptable to us in a natural manner. That is, they need to be naturally acceptable to us and not just imposed externally. Self exploration will also include verifying the proposals through experiential validation, that is, by living according to them. Experiential validation will ascertain that when we live our life on the basis of this education, our living will be fulfilling to us as well as our surroundings. Since the process is of self exploration and not of giving someone's or prescribing do's and don'ts, you need not agree to all that is said, but only be ready to investigate into them sincerely. We don't want to just theorize and impose stated truths. So, this process of self exploration has to be in the form of a dialogue between the presenter and the receivers to begin with. So, in case of teachers and students, it's a dialogue between the teachers and the students to begin with, and slowly to translate into a dialogue within the receiver, that is, students, himself or herself. Like each one of us can conduct this verification within ourselves. This process is expected to initiate a transformation in our understanding, in our consciousness, and our living. So, this process of self verification needs to be applied to all the proposals. So, in this way, we will proceed forward one proposal at a time. Life is a laboratory, and we will work on the proposals and verify their truthfulness in ourselves. And coming to the self exploration as the process for value education, which we were discussing. So, here we can see that we have this diagram. What I really want to be, my natural acceptance, my intention, whether I want always want to be in relationship. What if I don't want to be in relationship always? So it's a relationship. It's between the human being, the nature, and the existence. So it's a participation. So we live with this entity entirely. We live with our family, our friends, air, soil, water, trees, the nature around us, and we want to understand our relationship with all this. Understanding of all these is to be done by me, the self. To understand my relationship with all these, I need to start observing inside. Starting to observe inside, normally we are used to exploring outside. For example, like we keep looking around, we observe trees, animals, and other human beings. Do we observe what is going on in me while I am observing outside? Thus, it remains only external observation. When we say we want to self explore, it means we have to now start observing within ourselves too and not observing just outside. So, if we take an example that we are seeing a tree, when I see a tree, here is what is happening. The image of the tree is available on my eyes. From there, the information is passed on to me, and then I say I can see a big tree and it is about 100 meters away, and so on. So, this is an example of observing outside. But when I start to observe what relation I have with the tree, or how does the tree relate to me, it is observing inside. So, we can take one more example. When I get angry, I know I'm getting angry. In other words, I can see. the anger in myself. I'm no longer using my eyes to see that anger, but I am observing this anger inside my own self. Then, what is self exploration? What is its purpose? So, if we want to understand the self exploration, I would like to highlight few points and its purpose. It is a process of dialogue between what you are and what you really want to be. It is a process of self evolution through self investigation. It is a process of knowing oneself and through that, knowing the entire existence. It is a process of recognizing one's relationship with every unit in existence and fulfilling it. It is a process of knowing human conduct, human character, and living accordingly. It is a process of being in harmony in oneself and in harmony with entire existence. It is a process of identifying our innateness and moving towards self organization and self expression. So we'll go over the whatever the points I just mentioned. So it's a process of dialogue between what you are and what you really want to be. We will look into ourselves and find out what we are today and how this contrasts from what we really want to be. If these two are the same, then there is no problem. If on investigation we find that these two are not the same, then it means we are living with this contradiction. And hence, we need to resolve this contradiction, this conflict within us. So ask yourself this question: am I what I really want to be? When we look into this, we find that mostly we're not what we really want to be. These two are different, and each one of us is faced with this contradiction. We are something, and we want to be something else. So, this basic dichotomy, this basic contradiction has to be resolved. So, this contradiction creates a conflict in us, which is a continuous cause for our unhappiness. What we are today is the result of our preconditionings, our predispositions, our impressions, and our beliefs. What we really want to be comes from deep within us, that is naturally acceptable to us. This is something intact in us. It needs to be explored and found out. What I am, what I really want to be. So that this dialogue needs to be started between what you are and what you really want to be on investigating into it. You will find that the contradictions are not outside of you. These contradictions are inside you. In fact, the contradictions that you see outside are mostly a reflection of the contradictions within. For example, we end up believing many things that are instilled in us since childhood, like living is basically a struggle for survival, and based on this belief, we plan our whole life. But have we even asked ourselves the question of whether this is the way in which I really want to live? We find that most of the time we don't even care to know whether the things we have assumed are really true. We are defining our entire lives, all our desires based on such assumptions, without even knowing whether these assumptions are naturally acceptable to us. This is a serious matter worthy of our attention. So, all our unhappiness, all our discomfort, all our unease is because of this contradiction within. So, between what we are and what we really want to be, each one of us lives with this feeling of discomfort, the unease within that keeps telling us something is missing. Each one of us is faced with contradictions and problems in various aspects of life. Contradictions within ourselves, in our behavior with people, in our interactions and thoughts about society, and in our interactions and notions about nature, and irrespective of where you are placed, in a nice school, a great college, having a good job, having a lot of money, etc., this discomfort is continuously present. On careful self exploration, we will find that we are being driven by a number of assumptions, beliefs, which are contrary. So it's a process of self evolution through self investigation. Like we should work towards being what we really want to be. Hence, the self exploration leads to our own improvement, our own self evolution. We will become qualitatively better when we can be more in harmony within ourselves. The third point is I want to mention is it's a process of knowing oneself and through that knowing entire existence. So thus self-expression leads to us knowing ourselves better. Today we are largely unaware of our own characteristics, our own assumptions, beliefs and preconditionings. We will go beyond these beliefs to know ourselves. Once we have known ourselves and we are sure of it, we can then also know all the things around us correctly. This way, we can be sure of these things in our own right. We can be authentic about them. We don't have to continue to live merely with assumptions about these things. Ask yourself, do I want to know myself? Do I want this self investigation? Am I satisfied in living my life without having known myself? If I don't know myself, I'm not sure of myself. How can I be sure of what I want and what I do? One finds that the need to know ourselves, to understand the self, is an innate need of every human being. So, this need to know does not have to be instilled from outside. Once our attention has been drawn to this fact, each individual would like to know himself or herself and can carry out the self exploration and self evolution. So, it all based on the natural acceptance. So, as I said, the process of self exploration is a process of dialogue between you and me, and it goes on like this process of self exploration, self investigation, self evolution. It's a process of knowing oneself through the self, process of recognizing one's relationship with every unit in nature. It's a process of knowing human conduct, process of living in harmony within, living in harmony with others, living in harmony with entire existence. So the self exploration is like knowing my natural acceptance, what I really want to be, living in accordance with our natural acceptance, living in harmony within, means self organized, living in harmony with others, self extension, so that I can establish harmony everywhere, universal order. So these are the things like desires and programs. Like when I have some desires, I'll get to know that what is my aim, objective, purpose, basic human aspiration, what do I want to achieve. And the program is the thing, it's a process which tells me achieving this desires action, like how do I achieve it. That's the process of self exploration. Coming to the content of self expression, it's all leads to happiness, prosperity, the continuous of happiness and prosperity. Now, these are some of the questions that we want to ask to ourselves. That is, do we desire for happiness, prosperity? Do we desire for the continuity of both? If continuity of happiness and prosperity is ensured, then what else would you desire? Because if I desire more than that continuity of happiness and prosperity, it means that something is lacking in me. Our desires are not unlimited or indefinite. Our basic aspirations is for happiness, prosperity, and its continuity. So this is what we understand. It's a again this process of self verification. It's a proposal, and all these thoughts, desires, expectations, what we have should be analyzed, verified by oneself through all the right understandings, natural acceptance. So that leads to the proper process of self verification. So, see, these are some of the self reflections of this self verification.